And now joining us in studio to talk about the restructuring and that is mainly happening in the operations department for Kenya Airways. We are joined by the Ground Services Operations Director, Francis Musila. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Clearly knowing that Kenya Sevens were wearing all these jerseys that had Kenya Airways all over the place, I guess we should say congratulations partly to Kenya Airways and on the bigger part to Kenya Sevens.
Well, I think it's mostly to the rugby team. They did us proud, and we are very happy to sponsor them. They did a fantastic job. I think there's a lot of similarities between what they've gone through to get here. You have to just have grit, keep going at it, practice, play, lose, and then come back again. So we're very happy that they had this victory, which is a victory obviously for Kenya as much as it is for the rugby team.
I think it is a victory for the entire region,
yes.
Knowing that we haven't gotten to those levels yet, and Kenya just did the entire region proud. So let's talk about Kenya Airways and what's happening there. The past few months we've seen a lot of restructuring going on there, and that also has had to do with leasing out of some of its aircraft. Take us through some of the restructuring that is going on at Kenya Airways.
Okay, I think if you roll back a little, you remember that last year we announced quite a big loss, which said then we needed to look at how we do our business.
Right.
And as we looked at our business, we had to look long and hard at the things that are adding value and those that are not adding value. And we formed a project, I'll call it a project, which we nicknamed Operation Pride, which is basically to restructure and come back to where we should be.
Right.
There was a lot of knocks we took. Obviously, there was the terrorism, there was the Ebola, and a number of things that happened, including competition. And the question then was, how do we respond to all those inputs? So within our Operation Pride, we have what we call initiatives or ideas on how to restructure and what we can do differently. And we've spent the last 4 to 6 months just putting down together a plan, clear structure. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? When will we achieve our results by? And we are now just starting to implement it. We are starting to see some results, and we are very pleased with that.
All right. So when you actually did announce that big loss, it was it has actually gone on record as being the biggest loss in corporate history in Kenya today. So there've been questions as to what might have led to that. And maybe part of the reason is why we're seeing a restructuring going on. But talk to us about whether or not these strategies that are being put in place with Operation Pride are actually viable. Have we seen the losses narrowing since this Operation Pride was initiated?
So the plan is important because it gives us a target to achieve. And what we are looking at is within or before the next 18 months, turning back to profitability. Already with the actions we've taken, we are starting to see an improvement in the operations. We've had to make some really tough decisions, like sell some aeroplanes or lease aeroplanes to other airlines. We are selling land. And unfortunately, we're also looking at parting with some of our colleagues. Very difficult decision, but it's something that we need to do for this company to continue to succeed.
All right. And there've been complaints. Let's just look at it from the customer service delivery point of view. There've been complaints from a number of passengers about Kenya Airways delayed flights, especially at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, especially for the regional flights. And, not much for the international flights, but the regional and local flights. But what exactly is going on? Is it a question of being understaffed? What exactly is going on there?
Let me tell you, it's a complex business, and the ground operations is what I look after in KQ. I have a fantastic team of young men and women who are looking to make sure that our guests, as we call them, get to their flights on time. We are a network carrier, and what that means is that we have people coming in from far, but connecting through Nairobi and going on to other destinations. Our biggest challenge has been how we make sure that those transfers are seamless. In the world of the airline, our main criteria is to make sure that those flights leave on time, what we call our on-time performance. And every day we are waking up to make sure that that happens. It doesn't always happen as we would like it to, and we hope we are getting better. We have a number of things that have happened over the last few years, obviously, with our new Terminal 1A, which is fully for KQ and its partners. Just last month, at the end of March, we were able to move into the arrivals terminal, which then means we are not using the parking garage anymore. And I must say also we are very thankful to Kenya Airports Authority and the government also for seeing the impact that KQ as an airline and the airport infrastructure has on the business of airline in this part of the world.
All right. So you've also had a number of initiatives, some of them to do with the wildlife and knowing what's going on in the country today. You know, at the end of the month, we're going to be seeing one of the biggest ivory burning events that we're having in the country today. But as an initiative, how has it been and how challenging is it when it comes to ivory trade and it transiting through some of the airlines at the JKIA, Kenya Airways being one of them?
I think it's inevitable that some of them would find themselves onto our flights, and that's the reason why we came up front to say that that's something we do not support at all, and in fact we are fighting to be on the right side of history, and that wildlife is an important part of the Kenya ecosystem and our business and our tourism, and therefore we are 100% behind every effort to stop any form of smuggling or trade in animal trophies.
Okay. And talk to us about the other initiatives that you have come up with. You know, there have been a number of them, I should say, because just recently you were actually awarded the best airline on the African continent, if I'm not mistaken. Some people have actually questioned that award, saying, how in the world can Kenya Airways be named the best airline in Africa? But what do you think about the reaction, especially from a number of Kenyans online, about this award?
Let me start by saying we are very humbled by that award. You know, it's the first time we've won it, being the best airline in Africa. We've won the best business class in Africa for I think 4 years running, and we are very proud of it. But you know, the business that we are in and the award that we have gotten is because our guests or our customers voted for it, which gives us the motivation and the feeling that we are doing something right. We are not perfect, but we are doing something right. And we want to build on that and get better and better and better for our country and our airline.
All right, and let's now talk about the pricing of Kenya Airways tickets. That has also come up as a number of queries, especially from passengers, not just Kenyan passengers, but across the region. And they say that Kenya Airways is one of the most expensive airlines, or in terms of ticketing. But would you say it is justified?
I think for me, what we need to do is make sure that we remain competitive and that we give value to our guests as they travel with us. I think obviously to some level, if it's such an issue, yes, it is justified. I think we've responded quite a lot in the last 6 months to how we can improve our pricing and how we make sure that we are giving value. And indeed, it is one of our initiatives to make sure that we are on track and we are keeping close to what the market wants and what the market needs.
But how do you actually keep up with that, knowing that we're having also other airlines that are now flying directly into Nairobi, and that is where the key market for Kenya Airways is in inter-Africa flights. So when it comes to your competition, their flight or ticket pricing seems to be much more affordable compared to Kenya Airways. So is there a plan going forward to review the ticket pricing?
We are reviewing the ticket prices on a daily basis, on a minute basis as we go. We use revenue management as a way of pricing. But you cannot hide from the fact that there's a lot of competition out there, and it's not always fair. But at the same time, and this is I think the view of our country and our airline is that we'll be a competitive airline. And whatever we can do to be competitive without say like government sanctions or government subsidies, and then we will do that.
Okay, and recently the tourism ministry did announce that they were planning on taking forward the issue of open sky policy.
Yes.
And while this is actually good for tourism, it might not exactly be good for Kenya Airways. But what is your take on that? How do you think it's going to actually affect Kenya Airways as the national carrier?
I think open skies is a good idea. And open skies, while it might have downsides to it, if you're competitive and you're giving value to your customers and your guests, then I think it can work. I think we need to be careful though how we roll it out. If you make it open skies and open up to everybody, then you might have a problem. If we could start by opening it up, say, to just Africa, and let the African airlines grow Africa and help people move around Africa, in a sense almost to the exclusion of the other big carriers from other continents, then that would be good for Africa.
All right.
And I think we would thrive in that kind of a situation.
Okay, but seeing as you know, Kenya's traditional source markets are outside of Africa, or at least most of them, we're looking at countries like France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, as well as North America. Do you think that if open sky policies are only for African airlines, this is going to impact much on Kenya, knowing that most of its source markets are outside of Africa?
Well, our source market, we think, is Africa.
And that's for Kenya Airways.
Yes, for Kenya Airways. So we have people flying from all across Africa to other continents, but via Nairobi. And we think that's really where the value is. If we can connect people with trade and with investment and with tourism, that's where we think the value is for KQ. And if we are able to offer the product that they want in that open skies agreement, then it's good for KQ, and as I think it would be good for other airlines.
All right.
Why would you choose to fly another airline as opposed to KQ? Those are the questions that we need to keep awake on every day, making sure that we are offering the product that people want.
All right. So going forward, what does 2016 look like for Kenya Airways? You know, you're yet to release your full year results. I don't know if they look good. Do they look good?
Oh, I don't know yet. We've just closed our financial year and end of March. So there's a process, obviously, that has to go with that. I think the sentiment I would say is that we are hopeful. With our Operation Pride initiatives starting to kick in, we are seeing the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. And so 2016, we are looking towards that being a very good year.
All right. Okay, and someone actually yesterday did mention that now that Kenya Sevens have actually won the main cap, I hope it comes with good fortunes for Kenya Airways.
Well, you know, we've invested in them as a title sponsor, as the main sponsor, and we both carry the name Kenya together. So we hope that you know,
the good luck could trickle down to Kenya Airways.
I mean, we are seeing people from further away than Kenya, congratulating the team and Kenya Airways for the good fortune. So we are really pleased with that. We look forward to more business.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Francis Musila, who is the Ground Services Director at Kenya Airways, talking to us about the outlook for 2016. Now, we'll take a short break. When we return, we are going to be talking about mentorship and growing small businesses into fully fledged established businesses. We'll be speaking to Mayur Shah, who is the founding director for Kenafric Industries. Do stay with us.